What is going on, guys? Welcome to another episode of Second Guessing with Stress, and I'm your host, Garrett Williams, aka Texans commenter. And today we got a very unique, awesome special guest in Nate Tice. Nate is a former collegiate quarterback as well as being part of a football family and writes for Yahoo Sports among many things. Nate, welcome. How you doing today?
Thanks for having me. No, I'm doing great. Doing great. No, happy to join you because I know we kind of know each other from online circles. So I'm excited always to talk ball with somebody that I think can keep up. So no, very excited to join today. Excited to talk some Texans and some other stuff.
Well, I'm mostly excited about that because, like you said, talk ball. I mean, your page on X, obviously you write for Yahoo, and do you write for NFL Network as well still, or?
No, just some 10-minute TV segments right now. So it's kind of
Okay.
nice. But yeah, just Yahoo writing right now.
But then you do have a podcast on Yahoo with Matt
Yeah.
Harmon, correct?
Yep.
And
Matt
that's
Harmon,
called the
Charles
what?
McDonald. Football 301. Yeah, we today we did an awards preview show, which will come out in a couple hours, probably after this. But yeah, no, just we did division previews for a month. Spoilers: we had the Texans winning the AFC South, and then we so check those out. But yeah, football 301 with Charles McDonald, Matt Harmon. We kind of 3-man weave it, 2-man shows, talk about everything. We'll be previewing every single week. So that's the main squeeze of my work is that podcast.
That's awesome. And I've seen it here and there. I've seen clips, and like I told you prior, like Matt Harmon, I know he does like the route tree. I think he does a lot of great work. And I was going to tell you too. So, I got a bunch of aliases. My name is Texans Commenter, but I go by Houston Stressins. As you can tell, that kind of goes
Mhm.
off of like the games being stressful and close. But I do have like a moniker called like Blessin' or Stressin', which is like a love it or hate it. And
Yeah.
so you saying the Texans winning the AFC South, we are blessing that. So that's good to hear.
Good start. Good start. Yeah,
Yeah,
I'm glad I could check that box at least.
absolutely. But yeah, I mean, so back to your ex and your film work. I mean, I'll hand up. I'll admit, like before researching you for the show, like I didn't realize you played quarterback at Wisconsin. I knew there were some family ties with your father. So with that being said, like I mentioned too prior, I kind of like for people to get to know the people on the show because it's people they follow and listen to. So if you don't mind, just like mostly from like a football background, like your life, college, your father being around football, and then kind of like how it's all geared toward what you're doing now.
Yeah, kinda all I knew. My dad played in the NFL for a long time, Mike Tice. He played for 14 years as a tight end. My uncle played for 10 years as a tight end, John Tice. My other uncle, or my dad's brother-in-law, played in college and coached, still coaches in college, at Kansas. I kinda just all I knew. Baseball was my first love and what I thought I was gonna kinda do, and then I realized I was decent at the quarterback thing. So started playing, got recruited, ended up at Wisconsin. And at Wisconsin, I was a backup for a couple of guys. So whenever I say play, it's like a loose term. I got a couple snaps in there to letter
I can
for a
relate. I
couple of
was
years
like that
there.
for receiver, so on a much lower level.
Exactly. Paul Chris took a liking to me. He was the offensive coordinator there at the time. And, because he was a coach's kid and we kind of just bonded about stories. He bounced around the NFL and a bunch of other stuff. Real big mentor to me. I ended up after playing, quote unquote, playing. I was then coached. I GA'd grad assistant at Pitt under Paul Christ on offense side, then scouting assistant and pro scout for the Falcons after that, then coached for a couple of years as an offensive assistant for the Raiders. Then Gruden came in, we all got fired, which is part of the business. And kind of just didn't know what I was going to do. Kind of got away from football, but ended up in football media and just been when my dad also coached for a long time. So when he stopped coaching and I was no longer with the team, I was like, all right, I can start tweeting my actual thoughts and not worried about getting in trouble, which actually no one cares about anymore. But yeah, at the time, that's what people did care about what you tweeted or posted. So when kind of just started going from there, and that just led to a media career, which I never really thought of, but it's been fun to kind of share what I do know, being around a lot smarter people from osmosis and being around a lot of successful people. It's kind of helped me learn about the game. It's kind of fun to see light bulbs turn on for people and try to share what I do know. And I honestly, it's just a great community. I think the kind of, if you want to find it and want to keep it positive and aren't worried about quarterback ranking lists and who's elite and not, there's a lot of fun in football. And I hopefully am a part of that for some people.
You definitely have to, from my experience. Like I'm, mostly Texans, but I'm an NFL fan too. You have to kind of learn how it works and when to interact and when not to. But
Yeah.
I mean, there is some similarity too, though. Like obviously, like, I'm just a fan. I played college football as a receiver. I was like you. I was a backup. I wasn't really touching the field, so I don't like to say that because then it comes off as something that
Stolen valor.
exactly
Yeah.
appropriate term there. But, you do as a backup, you can learn a lot. But regardless, I
Absolutely.
was a fan and I just started a Twitter, and to me, what was relieving is like getting your takes out there. And then for me, it just kind of grew between content and takes. And it sounds like that's for you too. I mean, when I see you, like you point out a lot of good stuff, like on film, you'll, see a quarterback ID and protections or like little
Mhm.
minute details that, most fans might not see. So I guess that also came with the scouting background, which is really neat as well. So was there a lot that you learned there that now you're applying here? And then this probably seems like the best of both worlds. You kind of get your itch for football, but like how you want to do it.
Yeah. Yeah. You're exactly right. It's kind of somehow landed like this. Honestly, spun through the air of the football world and ended up landing on my feet like this where I get to work from home. It is, but I think it's rewarding also. And I think you can relate the more you really, if you put good work into it, the more you get out of it, which I think, in the football, when you're in the football circles, a scout, a coach, you have to work up through the ranks. And my last name, I'm not an idiot, does help, but I was also trying to show how much I did know. And the thing is I think you have to, it's like the military. You have to work up through the ranks, and that can take a lot of time. And I think in media, which is nice, is that it's like, and sometimes the good things that might be your ideas, you do not get credit for, or the bad things you might not get blamed for as well. But that when you rise through the ranks, you also get more money, you get more accolades, but you also get more blame. But I think what's cool in media is you're kind of like, yeah, like you said, you put your takes out there, you get your thoughts out there, you're exposed in the good ways. You get good exposure, you get bad exposure. But I do. There was a smart guy once that told me, you are what your replies are, you are what your mentions are, and I think that's why I don't have such. I know what social media is, but I don't have as bad experiences because I try to kind of push out what is kind of cool about football. Like you mentioned the minutia of pointing out a protection or something. There's so much discussion about like, oh, the quarterback this, quarterback that. I think being around football, being part of a team, which I think is the irony of all this. So many of us played football, but then, there's former players that get into media and then they get into fall into discussions about quarterback eliteness, as opposed to it's like, hey, you guys are the ones that should know that there's 22 guys out there and there's coaches that have input on this. And there's a lot, and I find the irony of that's pretty rich to me. Because I try to, as much as I can see why, because that's kind of the sugar of our business, it is fun too. I think there's so many people that love football, so many people. And I think there's more people that want to learn that even know they wanted to learn. This is why John Madden was so good. John Madden was teaching people as he was being funny and being unique and talking about turduckens and stuff. Like he was teaching the game. And I've always said that, like, if so many people want to be smarter than their buddy or be at the bar and be 1% smarter than their buddy at the bar, like, hey, that middle linebacker is a good blitzer, like just even something like that. Or the quarterback, oh, the quarterback said something. Yeah, they like to do that when this happens. Like people love that. And sometimes they just don't know it. And I think just football, we are all consumed by it. But I think it's grown more than just a niche that people just want to learn more. And I think that's just a lot of fun. Like I've been lucky. I know I'm long winded right now, but
No, keep going. You're good. I don't want to
I've
interrupt.
been, I've been lucky to, be, my first job was a ball boy. I was an equipment manager, ball boy, really, is the real term, for the Vikings because my dad was coaching there. And I got to spot the football for an NFL team as a high schooler. I got to read a script. And at the time, I didn't realize that was unique. I thought that's just what you did, and as I grew older, those were reps. And there's just little stuff that you learn through osmosis, like that you don't realize is something you learned, if that makes sense. Like also that it's not, you don't realize it's something you can teach. And I've realized how hungry people are for that. It's kind of cool when you throw some out there and like 6 months later, you get tagged on social media where someone's gone like, hey, that one thing you said happened. I was like, oh my God, I don't even remember saying that, but awesome, sweet. It's like you feel like a teacher almost. So, I'm not trying to like, it's not just me. There's a lot of us. There's a lot of people out there, including
Ted
yourself.
Wynn is another one, right?
Ted does a great job.
Yeah, I've talked with him before, not on the show, but
Yeah, but just pointing out that stuff
Yeah.
and just highlighting it and just showing that there's kind of more out there to this guy. It's a great game. And I think there's just more to it than quarterbacks and who wants it more. Like, yes, those things are important, but there's so much other cool stuff with it. And I think it's kind of cool that people are kind of coming along for the ride and realizing about that.
No, I agree 1,000%. And I respect that. Like, I mean, there is, the need for like the sugar of the business, like you mentioned, like rankings,
Absolutely.
and people like me, like I don't really care about them. Like, internally, like, that's wrong, but I don't get upset. But like, I
Yeah.
post them, but I don't post them like for engagement. I just post
No,
it because I know people like it. It's fodder, whatever. I mean, as long as you
I
see
like
it for what
checking
it
back
is.
on it and going like, what did I think at that summer point? You know, like
Yeah.
it's fun to kind of like look back on more than anything. My first couple years in media, I was a lot more defensive about it and everything. But now I've realized, no, it's just for fun. It's off-season content that
Well, it's
people
impossible to nail every prediction. Things change, injuries, schemes. I
it's
mean,
ridiculous.
you've seen too, like one guy and one scheme is terrible, or maybe coaching. And I'm sure you may have experienced this playing or being around it. I mean, you got to catch some breaks along the way. And
Oh
unfortunately, a
yeah.
lot of people don't. So, but it's funny though, like to your point about educating, like I find myself doing that too, even though I probably know much less than you. But it goes to your point of like people wanting to know the sport growing, so I try to share what I know when I can, and I think people like that. But I and like you mentioned too, like going to the bar, knowing more. To me, there's no better compliment when someone says you know ball. Do you agree with that?
Yeah, it's nice. I you know, like I've made the joke about stolen valor and everything, but it's just like it is nice when people do say that. I went on a Brazilian show and they said it in Portuguese, and I was like, "Well, I appreciate that, guys." And I would say that was high honor. But talk about predicting and stuff. That's what there's 22 guys playing on the field at the same time, and it's a 17 game season, so it's a shorter season compared to other sports. There's injury luck, and that's the thing is like we can nail our predictions, and the ball bounces wrong once, and you're totally wrong, and no one will remember that bounce of the ball in a couple of years, you know. And I just think that's what's so funny about predicting and stuff. But no, I agree when someone says that you might know something, it is a nice compliment
But when
when
you
you know
predict right, you don't forget. You make sure and let people know about
don't
it.
ever. But people don't ever make me forget about, liking Desmond Ritter.
Hey,
That's
I
the
was
thing.
him him too, man.
I know. See, that's the thing. Is like,
And
yeah, hey,
Spencer
there's good
Rattler, they were kind of
prospects here.
similar to me, but like I'm surprised
Yeah.
Spencer Rattler hasn't panned out either. I mean, maybe he will. Who
He's
knows?
starting. He's starting. So that he won out. I had
Yeah,
Spencer Rattler in the same tier as Nixon Penix. Like that. I thought he had some juice to him. But
really.
yeah, no, but people, and then you realize that the people that bring that up don't matter. And then you just move on.
Oh yeah.
And then you
Well,
just have
like
fun.
so the longer you've been online, the more you realize there's trolls and stuff like that. And you can start to identify like the repeat offenders too. It's kind of funny.
That's what it is. Yeah, when you mute them instead of blocking them, you start realizing, oh, I muted you for a reason. Okay, we're
It's a great tool.
good.
Well, that's funny. King Colby says you look like Mike Tice. Well, because that's your dad.
uh, yes, I know. I was saying
so
it's the eyes. It's
so
the
how did you
not
wind up
not very
playing
big eyes.
quarterback and not tight end coming from a tight end family?
Should have played tight end. I was so skinny. I was, buck 95, 6'4", 195 coming out of high school and not very strong. Not the fleetest of foot. I was smart and pretty accurate, which kind of gets you a long way. But and tall, some people think you're a little bit better than you are. I got bigger later, good and bad. I put on weight at Wisconsin, good weight, and then afterwards, as when you start coaching and stuff, you put on bad weight. So I kind of just got bigger and stronger a little too late. But I definitely should have played tight end because I'm 6'5" and I've really long arms, and you don't really get to. Long arms can actually be a hindrance as a quarterback. A little bit better as a tight end blocking or a defensive end or something like that. So honestly, should have played baseball. But this is all work. The football media career has totally
Look what you're
worked
doing
out.
now. This is
I
like a
know,
dream
right? No,
job,
I
bro.
know. This is a bad consolation prize than being a relief pitcher for the Seattle Mariners.
Yeah. Hey, I mean, the money wise might be different,
Well,
but
yeah, true, very true.
but yeah, so I mean, obviously you cover the entire NFL, but I cover the Texans, so we'll kind of dive into that. And there's a lot of obvious questions, but I just thought of this one. I can kind of mold it into a multifaceted question. But you being at Wisconsin, Graham Mertz made the 53-man roster, was at
Yeah.
Wisconsin before Florida. So thoughts on him, and then also I'm not sure if you saw Davis Mills was signed to another extension for $7 million APY to lock him up through 2026, which now makes him the second highest paid backup quarterback, I believe. So what are your thoughts on those two guys? And then to make it even a larger question, just the role of a backup quarterback in general, I guess.
It's just that I think this is a team that wants to contend, and we can talk about maybe whether they're there or not in a second. But I think that if you want to contend, you have to make sure you always have even a stopgap answer at quarterback, because you don't want an injury to mean auto loss, which it can for some teams. And I think I saw a quote, and literally right before we started, I saw the quote, and I don't want to attribute to anyone, because I'm not sure what it was or who it was, but some leadership with the Texans was talking about how important that position is, because, with the backup quarterback position, how much they value that. And just knowing the places that they've come from, this regime having so much Patriots to it, they always address the backup quarterback position, never had to use it. Really, deflate gate suspension, and then the Matt Castle year. But that is just something, CJ Stroud has been dinged up at times. Sometimes his fault, sometimes the offensive line's fault. I love CJ Stroud. Don't jump after me, so don't worry. But
you can tell your honest opinion regardless.
He's aggressive. He's aggressive. So he's going to take some shots.
He's cocky and confident. You want that. You'd rather have that than the opposite.
Stroud. I love Stroud. Yeah, Stroud has, lack of a better word, he has balls.
So you're a Stroud boy.
Oh, yeah. Well, I had him as my top 10 quarterback rankings.
Okay.
Oh, easy. I know. I just said that doesn't
You passed
matter,
the test. We're good.
No, I love Stroud. I got to interview him a couple of years ago. It's one of my favorite things I've done in media. We got to break down a couple plays, one of which was
I saw it's at Media Row, right?
Yeah. It was probably one of my favorite things I've ever done, because he just took it and ran with it. I mean, that's why I'm so excited to see what he does this year, because they're talking about how much control they're going to give him. And people are like, oh, I don't know if he has or not. It's like, no, this guy is so cerebral. And one of the, I truly believe this, one of the smartest players I've talked to, and I think one of the smartest players in the league. Absolutely loves football, devours football. He talks about scouting guys. We're both Drake May guys too. He mentioned that. That was his favorite quarterback. I am too. Oh my God. No offense to
Big
Stroud,
year in store for them. They're kind of a sleeper, I think.
I had him as the 7 seed in the playoffs. So sneaking in.
That's where I got him too.
Yeah. I think the top 5 are locked in, but the bottom 2 are wide open. And I think they have a really easy schedule too. But yeah, love May as a prospect. Really liked Stroud as a prospect. He's my QB1 that class. That's not retconning. That is on record. I had Richardson as 2, but we'll see where that story.
You weren't the only one.
Up. Yeah. I chase tools. That's why I like May. But no, Stroud is just, and what's remarkable about him is his timing, how quickly he can throw the football. Like, his operation is so quick. He can throw legit intermediate and outside the numbers throws flat-footed, which is a skill set. People think big arm, and I don't think people realize that with Stroud, that he has a big arm, because it's just so quick and it's just so fluid, and it's just a tight spiral every single time, puts it on the money all the time. And that's the thing, is that he's not the biggest guy, and he's tough and is willing to stand in there. And that's why some of the injuries have happened. Now I'm hoping that with some offensive line, even if they just bump up to the 22nd best offensive line, as long as they're cohesive and go in the right direction, it's going to be an improvement. That's what I know more people have made a deal about this, but that's something I was going nuts about for the last 2 years, was that their rules were terrible and their operation was terrible. Offensive linemen were going the wrong direction. Offensive linemen going to the wrong guys, running backs going to the wrong guys. And it was so frustrating. People were like, oh, they're just bad. It's like, yeah, they're bad. And they're just like mentally bad. Like, I knew it was coaching. It was just over time, you realize that's coaching. When veterans that you've seen in other places not have that issue now, that's alarm bells. And I know with Stroud and seeing Stroud, there's a play. I can ramble and wind. I'm like the freaking, sorry, I can do this sometimes, but
no, you're good, man.
With Stroud against the Vikings last year, there's a play where he signaled and backdoored a glance route on 3rd down. He beats the blitz, and then the Vikings actually feigned the blitz, and he still found the answer. And that was one of those plays where I was like, he is not the issue. So give him more power, because the offensive line cannot handle any of this. Give it to him. I don't care if he makes mistakes. Give it to him. And obviously, Slowick is not comfortable in that, and not, I don't want to bash all what Slowick did, but that's the thing, was that his comfort zone is not putting on the quarterback, and that is just, this happens. My comfort level in every offensive system I've been in, and my dad believes in, is putting it on the quarterback. Quarterback has earned that right. They do. Stroud has earned that right, and this is just me talking to him once and watching on film for 2 years change plus Ohio State. Is this guy really understands football, really understands timing, really understands scheme things, or not scheme things, protection assignments. And that's why I think if you put more on him, he'll save himself hits because now he knows even if there's a weakness, he knows where the weakness is coming from.
I've been
So
saying this for like a year.
yeah,
Everything you're
we
saying. I'd
I
love to
gave
hear it from like a expert.
I waved away the first year, like it's the first year, new regime, okay,
Yeah.
whatever. But then as soon as the Packers game happened last year,
Yep.
that was the game I go, no, this is scheme, this is coaching, this
You
is
got
this
guys, I mean, when you have so many rushers coming untouched at a certain
untouched.
point, that's mental. Like,
Yep.
but most people see the sack and they're like, oh, they physically suck. Like, no, like there was a little bit of personnel on the
Yeah.
interior. But I mean, and also like it was as a whole, like well, I went and like did like a deep dive article and like, because someone tried to say that Stroud was responsible for these sacks, hold on the ball too long. And I went through PFF and broke down like where the pressures came from. Like
Mm-hmm.
we led the league in pressures allowed by tight ends. Our running backs were also bad. So it wasn't
Yep.
just the O-line, it was the whole operation. And I don't know if you've heard too, it wasn't just Bobby Slovic, but it was also a perfect storm of we had an O-line coach and Chris Strausser who was
Yes.
reportedly now after the fact, like checked out, like debating retiring before the season.
Yes.
And then now you have when once we, promote Cole Popovich, the assistant O-line coach, everyone's like, well, why would you promote the assistant for a terrible O-line? D'Amico Ryans repeatedly, when he talked about hiring that guy, is like he says, now we have one voice. So you not only had a guy checked out, but you had like him telling them bad stuff. And the other guy be like, yeah, you should probably do this, but he can't really do it because he's the assistant.
Yep.
It was
Politics,
a mess, man.
No,
Yeah,
no,
it still holds true in the NFL, right?
Oh yeah. And I was going to get to Strausser too. So that's the thing too. I already referenced this, but like there's a lot of military to the NFL as far as rank. So if you're assistant offensive line coach, you got to understand there's rank. You don't outrank the offensive line coach. If you're offensive, it's just how it works. So even if you have a great idea, there's politics to it. No, but that was why I was even just getting into it. It wasn't, all protection is going to start with the offensive line coach. Obviously the coordinators has the play call, but really they defer to the line coach and they try to work together to get it all together. That is just how systems work. And so that's why I'm glad you brought out Strausser, because it was definitely the offensive line coach issue on top of just Sloak. And I just think that's Sloak did not have that knowledge to go like, well, actually we can do this. So don't worry about it. They're good coordinators, can cover it up over time. Sean Payton helps his guys out. Shanahan helps his guys out. He has a lot of veteran offensive line coaches under him usually for a reason. That is a classic thing. But when you get a guy, Strausser had issues when he was the offensive line coach with the Colts. Like depleted that entire team.
All simple stunts and twists destroyed him. But like I talked to a Colts fan, like people were like, when you try to blame Strausser initially as a Texans fan, they're like, well, he coached the Colts and they were great. Like, yeah, their unit was great, but towards the end it was not because he kind of checked out and simple stuff like that beat him. And then on top of that, you have flawed communication. So like stunts and twists. Now you got delayed blitzes, nickel blitzes, zone blitzes, everything just rocking your world. Yeah, it's just
running back is wasted, meaning that he is staying in protection when the defense rushes for on a simulator creeper, or they blitz and the offensive line could pick them up by rule. And the running back still is picking up a guy. And so an offensive lineman then gets wasted, because that's what defenses are so good now, is that now you're wasting an eligible receiver. So now I have 6 guys blocking and I only have 4 getting out. And now defenses run creepers and simulated to where they only bring 4 guys. So you're wasting 6 blockers, only get 4 out. And now they have 7 in coverage.
It spooks you into doing something you shouldn't do.
And then they run cover 2 behind it. And so now you think you're getting heated up, and then you throw a pick to a corner, or what they're doing is making quarterbacks think they're heated up, but then running the coverages behind it that actually are the ones you have to sit in. Cover 2, you have to sit in, meaning you have to read it out 1 Mississippi, 2 get to 3, and hopefully the ball's out within 3 seconds. But it's hard to do that unless it's cover 2, because if you're wrong, that's a pick. If you're wrong, and I think Stroud's very advanced. Sometimes he gets caught when he thinks he's got him, and then the defense does something. He can do that. But he has balls. Like, he's going to try stuff, and there's going to be once in a while where people go, "What? Why did he throw that? Why do you see?" And aggressive quarterbacks get got. Like, it's just going to happen.
You take chances, right? You also don't hit the home run if you don't take those chances.
Unless you tilt your shoulder up and swing. Like, and explosive plays are the name of the game. Like, it's impossible now, I think, with how good tackling is in the NFL and how defenses are playing right now, to just nickel and dime. you need to generate explosive plays, and generally it's through the air. But the magic number I found is 14%. You have to have a 14% explosive pass rate.
So that and probably red zone would be the other part of that, because you can nickel and dime, but you get in the red zone, you get stalled out,
score
which you're
touchdowns.
bad at too.
And then rushing success rate, which is
I was going to say too. So like if teams are running simulated pressures and they're dropping in zone, they're daring you to run, and if you can't run, which we couldn't really run last year with the wide zone as well. So
and you need guys that can break a tackle, and more teams are running on third down because of those blitz looks like you just mentioned, and they're going for it on fourth down.
Ben Johnson.
Yes. More. Yes. Oh my God. Yeah. He 2 years ago to completely depants the Chargers. Like, I think they ran the ball on 4th and 6 and they ran it for like a 15-yard gain. Like, they just ran power, and it wasn't like
one of those things like where you're not used to it. So it's like an unspoken rule. Like, you can't run the ball here, but it's like, no, you're giving it to me. I'm going to run it.
Teams are putting 6 DBs, 7 DBs on the field. Like, and they're all like standing up and looking to bail out and they're looking to bail out or blitz and get the quarterback. They're not looking to hold up their gap and tackle a running back.
Catch them off guard.
It's Sun Tzu. I mean, that's all this is. And, but I love that's what third down has turned into a rundown in some measures. Like, third down's turned into second down in some ways. And so it just changed the math. It's something I've been trying to pick the brains of some coaches. So like how they kind of change their call sheet. That's an off-season project.
Well, that's that constant like cat and mouse evolution in the NFL, right? I mean, it's a running league, now it's a passing league, and then now the defenses have quicker, faster linebackers. They're adjusting, and now it's all kind of that. And by the way, I'm not sure. I think one of my accounts may not be connected, but the number on here, I'm sure you don't care. It says 15, but I think there's more people on here. I just wanted to point that out. It's bugging me, but I don't want you to think that no one's in here. But
I can't see anything.
Okay, cool. It says 15,000.
I get to get some thoughts out, so it's great. I go on my own show. I have to cut myself off because I'm like, oh yeah, I have to host and actually ask questions and stuff. So I appreciate you. Yeah,
that's why I have my own show. I do a monologue. I do a monologue, so it's nice to have guests to let y'all talk. But I mean, so you're saying a lot of good stuff. Like, I like everything I'm hearing, and like you mentioned CJ Stroud too. Something I noticed about him, like the arm strength. Like, you're right. Like, he has arm strength, but it may not appear that way. Like the way he hits those deep outs. But things that have been pointed out, like Stephon Diggs and several other receivers, they say he throws like the friendliest, most catchable ball, which to me is very underrated. Yeah. And then he's good at layering the ball, which would be throwing over a linebacker and underneath a safety, like on a dig route per se, which that seems simple, but that's got to be, is that something that's extremely rare to do?
It's the hardest throw. It's, in Stroud, the guys that he throws most like are like Kurt Warner and Warren Moon. Where it's this perfect spiral every time and it's a quick release. And it's not, it's just, and the accuracy and everything. Those are the guys he throws like. No, the hardest throws, and this is something sometimes gets me in trouble with evaluation because but it's something I consider the baseline of good quarterback play or high-end quarterback play, which is a longer discussion, is that throwing over the middle is paramount to having success. Meaning, and not just throwing over the middle like a check down or a bomb 50 yards down the field. I mean, the middle square area, 5 to 20 yards in between the numbers, digs, benders, crossers, inside slants, choice routes, stuff that is, goes into yak and yards after catch. That's where explosive plays happen. That's why Shanahan offenses attack that area, is because that's what generates explosive plays. Outside the numbers throwing is iso ball. So yeah, if you have Randy Moss, you have AJ Brown, you have you have Nico Collins, actually, you can win just going stop routes goes, and a very more basic linear, kind of a route tree. So I think with Stroud and maybe with high end quarterback play, I think that's what I go for. Is not taking a ton of sacks, but sacks are fine if you're hunting explosives. Are you willing to push the ball, and are you willing to throw the ball over the middle? Are you doing stuff on time? Do you have enough arm strength to push the ball to the outside? That's what I look at. Stroud checks all those boxes. There's other quarterbacks that I can be lower on because Jane Daniels, I had as quarterback 3 in that class because I'm like, well, he has some red alerts with his size and also throwing outside. He has really good receivers, Brian Thomas Jr. and Malik Neighbors, and he just peppers outside, which, okay, do you have that advantage in the NFL? Sometimes you do, sometimes you don't. And are you willing to throw over the middle? Are you taking too many sacks? He showed that he has enough juice to that, like, his way of winning can succeed, Like if you scramble enough and if you're really freaking accurate on the outside, yeah, you can live that way. It's just harder to me because now defenses can play certain ways. Now again, you're relying on outside receiver talent more often than not. Terry McLaurin did help. So there's just kind of, it's like a NBA player that can't shoot threes. That's if you're really good though. If you're Chris Paul and you can shoot a bunch of
Well-rounded.
12, 15 footers and get to the rack like Jane Daniels can, okay, then you can make a living. But if you can't shoot threes and can't throw over the middle, like it's really hard to stay on the court and play well if you can't shoot and spread the floor a little bit when it comes playoff time. So that's kind of how I view if you don't throw over the middle. It's like a guy that can't shoot threes.
That's awesome. I mean, like, I guess I've like kind of known that, but not really correlated the two things together. And like, it makes perfect sense. And then like, I can't help but think too, like, and I've thought this for a while. We talked about the layering and the touch and throwing a friendly
Yeah.
ball. You know, obviously he played at Ohio State and all these receivers are highly drafted, but like, you have to go back and think, okay, like how much of that is Stroud? Like when you have a good quarterback who can throw over the middle, can throw a catchable ball, can lead you in stride, like me as a former receiver, like, you're only as good as your quarterback. And now if the
Yeah.
guy's hitting you in stride, you're unleashed on Yak. And then, you know, also on that point, Nico Collins was the nobody. And obviously he's awesome because he's awesome, but part of that is because of Stroud. So
Yeah.
is there an element of that too, where like a great quarterback with those skill sets can do more with less or make guys look better?
Yeah, it's absolutely. That's why like the Bills, and even the Packers or somebody talked about the receiver rooms. It's like as long as they're above baseline, a good quarterback can make it work. Like again, you have to have some juice to the room. You can't have a bunch of special teamers, but you need some of that. But the quarterbacks boost everybody. But receivers, I consider offensive line the floor raisers, but receivers are in skill position are the ceiling raisers. And so a guy like Nico, who I liked, but he's turned into a whole different animal in the NFL than I ever expected. I thought he could have been like a Michael Gallup, like a good solid starting X. And instead he's turned into we just did a prediction show. And again, I'm not just doing this because I'm a Texans based show. He was my prediction for offensive player of the year. I just
I gotta
I
have you
really
back, man.
yes, I didn't have Will Anderson as defense player. I'm sorry. I only could go so far,
Hey,
but
we'll
I did
take
have him
that.
yeah.
So
No,
then
it
he's
just
definitely a top 5 receiver in the league, in your opinion.
yeah. Oh yeah. I think we did it.
Is he pushing top 3? I mean, if he's going to win offensive player of the year, you got to have him pretty
Yeah,
high
well, then he'd
regard.
be top 3 after this year. Yeah,
Yeah.
there's underlying stats. Matt Harmon, again, who I did the show with, he
Yep.
said he leads the league in yards per route run over the last 2 years.
Yep.
He's, I think, the most explosive receiver along with Tyreek Hill. He is one of the most as far as just efficiency wise. He runs a full route tree. He's one of the only true blue X's that can win as a true blue X.
Not
Which
many of
means
them. Him,
nope,
AJ Brown. I mean, you
no.
could put DK Metcalf in there, but he's kind of linear.
Yeah,
He
but
doesn't
he's
really have
linear
that wiggle.
too. Yeah, most X's right now are like DK Metcalf or George Pickens,
Yeah,
where they're
they're
more,
like like you mentioned, the sideline, like just win. Yeah, but he can do it all.
goes and stops, goes, stops, slants, goes, stops, slants. That's and some maybe some outbreak or comebacks. That's but you have to be like strong. You have to be you have to be athletic enough where it's like you actually have to threaten them vertically.
I
Like the
call him a
Quan Tread,
unicorn. And
it's the hardest position to find.
and you know what I realized too is you can't spell unicorn without Nico. It's literally in the name.
That's nice. Nice. Very nice. Now, have you used that one before? Or you marinated on it.
Yeah, I mean, I thought about making it into a shirt, but some people can take it the wrong way. But yeah, I use it a lot.
Yeah.
I got a brain that's like creative, but I can say a lot of cheesy dad joke type stuff. So I try and like hold back a little bit.
No, I'm all for that. I'm all for that. No, and some people make fun of me in my evaluations and stuff, but the NFL believes in it. There's size thresholds at every position.
Mhm.
And the X, like you mentioned, is the hardest
Height,
position to
weight,
find.
speed.
Yep, and actual ball skills. Like Brian Thomas Jr. is an interesting case because everybody was high on him, but everyone was like, well, he can't do this, can't do that. It's unproven here. And then he comes in the league and he's winning as an X and like taking the top off and productive. He does have a double catch issue, which is going to bite him in the ass at some point this year. That's a prediction at one point this year. But he comes in the league as a true blue X. That's so hard. But when I evaluate guys, that's going to be my, and this is the same thing I learned in scouting. A guy that's a true number one outside receiver is harder to find than a guy that just wins from the slot. Like you can find a Christian.
Those are dime a dozen to me, honestly. And it goes back to what we said. Like if a quarterback can, lead them and throw a catchable ball, I mean, really you just got to be smart, honestly, in my opinion, to be effective.
Good feel. Yep,
Yeah.
you have a good feel, the good football awareness. You can just bump more guys inside. So this is why it's easier to find guards. It's easier to find safeties. If you just look at how football's structured, outside
Mm-hmm.
is more isolated. So an
Mm-hmm.
outside receiver has to win one-on-one. The scheme can only help them so much. An outside corner is usually in quarters, cover three, man to man. So they have to win one-on-one, more or less situations consistently. But same with offensive tackles going against edge rushers. But if they're bad at it, all right, we bump the tackle into guard. We bump the corner into safety. We bump the outside receiver into the slot.
You start with the
So
most difficult, and then that's just like an
the
aging X receiver or Z receiver. Like they transition into a slot receiver towards the end of their career.
power
Like they
slot.
lose the top end speed, so now
Yep.
you can just use your intelligence.
Because you're a tight end now. You're just
Yeah,
what used to be a receiving tight end. That's all it is now. It's just
yeah.
all been hybridized.
I love
Um,
that you are saying stuff that I say all the time because I know you're very intelligent with football, so it makes me feel good about myself.
all I do is think about it. So it's great to hear that others see it the same way. No, it's I think it's fascinating. And because like, running a team too, you also that's where you can find value. I think it's pretty funny to me to watch what used to be, oh yeah, you just take a running back on day 3. You don't have to take these guys high. Well, what if everybody in the market is doing the same thing? You lose value. You get, like you're not going to find
It's
value
just
now
like
if
fantasy
everybody.
drafts.
It's
Everyone's has the
fantasy
same
drafts. It's
strat. So yeah,
it's any market period. It's game theory.
you get
Um,
groupthink. You got to be a little bit outside the
yes,
box.
you have to, and I know it's scary for people, but you have to get outside the meta sometimes. I mean, that's why right now the duo, the more physical run, is become more of the meta because what you mentioned way earlier was that DBs and defenses are lighter and faster now. Well, the easiest way to beat them is just punch them in the mouth, just get bigger and run over them. And that's what some teams have figured out. The Rams are one that they've become one of the biggest outside
Texans
zone
now
teams.
too with Caley.
And now hopefully the Texans, or,
They've been using
uh,
it.
and I'm hoping it's a higher floor run, to use that term again. It's just that you can be very efficient. It can be a nice jab, and
Well, and you're not going to
you
lose yards as much either. Last year,
correct
wide zone, you run lateral behind the line of
yes
scrimmage. We started off with negative
TFLs.
2, 3, 4 yard losses, and we led the league in like second
Yep.
and third and longs, and a lot of it was because of wide zone. But my biggest gripe was Slowick, and I hate to always go back to this convo. We always talk about it on here, but he was young, and then also the Shanahan scheme. So he had no other prior experience. He only knew one thing,
Yep.
and rather than which Caley's doing the opposite, rather than fit the personnel to or his scheme around the personnel, he did the other way around. So it's like, here's my
Yep.
wide zone, but hey, wait, our whole O line is big, heavy maulers that
Yep.
are better for gap and duo. But I'm going to ask you to go lateral, think, be cerebral, be quick, and it's not going to work. So that was, and then D'Amico realized that, and he said like the words when they hired Nick Caley's, I want someone who's adaptable and adjustable. And that's exactly what Caley has said. Like, I'm not only going to adapt and adjust to our personnel, but also week to week to our opponent. So like to me, it's like music to my ears.
Yeah, and I think even the offensive line coach, the new one, I think
Popovich,
his
yeah,
only
Cole Popovich.
his only background's Patriots, and was it? There's one other spot. Was it Rams or somebody else?
He coached in college, so he was like the protege for Dante Scarnecchia.
Yeah, I knew
And
that with the Patriots.
yeah,
Yeah.
and he basically got bumped because COVID and like didn't get a vax or something and took a
Yep.
year off and went to Troy or something, which is actually where our center Jake Andrews is from. He coached him there, and Jake Andrews is someone who's been overlooked because he was initially a guard, and Cole Popovich is the one who told him to move to center, and he didn't do it
Mhm.
till like late, so he's like a late developing center. But yeah, so yeah,
I remember. Okay, I remember when he came on, like as the line coach. Yeah, and then 2020. Yep. Okay, so what I was gonna get as a like Skarnakia, it was all right, low red zone or short yardage goal line. They ran the same freaking outside boss play, which is just fullback lead play to the outside. They're gonna run that, so to look forward to that. But no, they run a lot of physical duo. Yeah, they're gonna like it's an at you run scheme. I mean, it all ties in, but then OC coming with some of the Ram stuff that's going to be at you and going to be duo. And what's great about duo is that you can if you want to base off of one run play as your fastball, it has to be one that can be run against any front that defense wants to throw you. And duo can be. You have to be a little creative sometimes with the receiver if you do that towards a receiver, but because based on safety looks, I can get more into it, but that's why outside zone was the scheme you could run on because you could run it against any type of defensive look in theory. And then run play action off that, yada yada. So that's what it's fun for me because duo is my favorite run play. Yeah.
But also a couple in the fact too,
on.
like we talked about, and real quick too, we're at 40 minutes. I know you said 30 to 40 minutes.
I got 10 more. I
10
got
more.
10
Okay.
more. Yeah, perfect.
Okay. I'll check back in. But like, so back to your point too, with CJ Stroud having more command in the pass game, he also has it in the run game too now. So like these runs can be more effective if he's the one ID in the mic and he may see something he might not like. And now he has the ability to actually audible the play altogether to change the run play or to change the pass, which before he didn't. So
it's that. Well, that's what's been fascinating with what McVay, and I've written like 3 articles on it. So I think McVay is just one of those that there's a lot of hype around him, and I think people get exhausted with it, but it's justified. It is really cool what he does with offensive structure, how he kind of changes things. It's always traditionally based, so it doesn't look as sexy as maybe what the Dolphins did the last couple of years, or something that college teams are doing, where everybody's in shotgun, everyone's flying all over the place. It's very traditionally based, but how he uses motion, how he uses inverts roles. Receivers are tight ends. Kind
I
of
love
like
the
just
insert a receiver
with
through the C
Puka and
gap.
stuff.
It's
I do
awesome.
too. And then he runs play action off of it, runs screens off of it. And so like that type of offense, it's something that I think there's a lot of weight to what it does. Like, I think there is a lot of justification to doing it. And it's kind of I prefer Sean Payton and now new Sean McVay offenses. But what was cool is kind of like how it bridged Stafford's gifts as well. And Stafford more.
Adapt.
Yes,
He adapted
exactly.
to his
That
personnel.
McVay really good at adapting. It's that those guys sometimes, when this brings us back to even slow, like an offensive system, is, hey, the center has everything. The center has everything. Well, then what if we have a supercomputer at quarterback as well? So this is what Kyle Shanahan had to do with Matt Ryan. This is what Aaron Rodgers and LaFleur had to do in Green Bay.
So
This
it
is
wasn't
where
just the Shanahan scheme; it's the coach within that scheme that's able to adjust. Because like my understanding
yes,
was like that's just the scheme no matter what, and it's like ironic
it,
because they try and make life easier for the quarterback, but actually make it harder for him if they're actually able to do more.
what seems like someone didn't want to give up the keys, and maybe just didn't know that he could give up the keys. You know what I mean? Like San Francisco has yet to do this. So what Sloak knows the most, the center has handled
Good point.
everything. So like these guys, like LaFleur has freaking Aaron Rodgers in his room. What are you?
You're going to defer to him.
You're
But
gonna
there
learn.
also was like
They learned
stories
to
that
bridge
came
it.
out about Slowick, and they sounded fake where he was like acting like a hardo. But like now, as all this stuff comes out, and like it's funny too, like the longer the time has passed, like CJ Stroud is like more openly talking about, when we talked about control, he said, and I don't think he was trying to like directly take shots,
Yeah,
but it came off that way. He's like, I'm back to having more command like I had in high school and college. So like he had more control of an offense in high school and college
I'm
than
not
he
shocked.
did.
And
Like,
it's
yeah.
something about it's something that's been like, and from a media perspective, and something I just don't want to like biases about. But it was, when Shanahan offenses were taking the league by storm, they still are. It was, why wouldn't you use this offense? Why wouldn't you do this if you can just juice up these points? In my old podcast, my first podcast with Robert Mays, the Athletic Football Show, we have discussions about this. But I was saying that there's more than one way to skin a cat. Like that's one way to do the system. But those guys all learned to get to the next level was to give some reign to the quarterbacks, to let them have some leeway. This is what the second year of Kyle Shanahan and Matt Ryan, they figured out a way. Hey, passing downs, I'm going to let you be you. You point shit out. You want to adjust. You want to
It
hide. You
almost
want to
takes like an older veteran quarterback that you have to respect, where some
have to
young
respect.
guy, yeah.
Yeah.
But
Matt
that's where I
Ryan had
like
Pro
D'Amico.
Bowls.
D'Amico, I
Yeah.
think the issue is like he's a new young head coach. He deferred 100% as he should into his OC and trusted
Yep.
him.
Yep.
But D'Amico on the other side, he has that collaborative approach. Like just rookies in general. Like look at Kamari Lassiter, Kalen Bullock. He's not afraid to play rookies. Like his opinion is like if you're good, you're going to play. And now we're seeing it on offense this year. So I know you got to go soon. We'll just kind of rapid fire a couple of the questions.
Yeah.
Someone asked about Ariante Ursery. You want to give a couple quick thoughts on him?
Yeah, I was really high on him. He was a top 30 player for me in this draft. I really think that this offense could be good for him. Most people thought of him as like a zone guy, and I actually thought that he could be translatable to a more power scheme. And he's just kind of a waist bender, so it's not always pretty with him. But I liked him. I thought he had a good preseason. At least I checked out the first 2 games. For sure, the first game. I for sure watched 2 games of this preseason. I thought he was one of the standouts. It wasn't all perfect, but I thought that he deserved to be on the field. I think he could be a solid left tackle in his career. It's cool that he earned the spot to win, that they won the spot.
That says a lot. They don't just start guys just because either. I mean, like in the way it happened too, Cam Robinson was the starter, got hurt, and so they moved into left tackle. It actually allowed us now to kick Cam
You're
Robinson.
dodging a ball with Cam Robinson.
But like, not only that,
we
we were able to kick Titus Howard from right guard back out to right tackle, his natural position. And then now we inserted Ed Ingram, who was kind of overlooked and I think kind of misplaced and playing good so far in this downhill duo scheme. So things kind of worked out. But again, we're getting short on time. I could talk to you all day. I want to kind of get some quick hitters here. Jaden Higgins and Jalen Noel, thoughts on those two?
Yeah, I always say I usually defer to I like X's when I start stacking guys, but actually Jalen Noel I had higher than Higgins. Actually like a whole tier higher. I really and actually, funnily enough, my comparison for Noel coming out of college was Christian Kirk, who could block, and then now he's playing on the same team as Christian Kirk. So I was okay, but I think I think he's gonna be a slot guy, or primarily slot operator. I mean, he's still wearing 82, right?
Which he just changed.
Oh, he went to 14. I was like, of course he wears 82. Like he's a perfect 82.
Like that's Steve Snod's 88. Yeah. But I've seen like a good, tough, solid, gritty
slot number. Yeah, I don't know. Yeah, gritty, feisty. Love him though. I think he's got good ball skills, good feel. I liked. He's good with the yards after the catch as well as, or good with the ball in his hands, I should say. Kind of like a simple runner, but because he's such got good contact balance, he kind of always break the first tackle and get an extra couple. I'm really high on him. I think he can end up being kind of a number 2 in your passing game, even if he is just primarily slot. And then I thought Higgins was an interesting choice by them because I actually think he could end up being a power slot as well, being a physical inside guy, but it makes sense to Z, 2 big guys on the outside long term. I really like the fit here, even if I like Noel a little bit more.
Yeah, so it surprised me. Like I'm real analytical. Like hearing you talk about X receiver, like Higgins is an X receiver. I was like, we're not going to draft an X receiver. But I mean, now you look at it like the Patriots, they're known for just collecting the best talent and being, like you said, unconventional. You know, every team is thinking, I need an X that's this height, weight, and speed. I need a Z that's this height, weight, and speed. Where they just take the best player. And Caserio is like, it's up to the coaches to figure it out. So I kind of like that. You know, like, hey, we'll get you talent and you just make it work.
And if you get guys that are scheme proof and can play multiple positions, guys get hurt. So yeah, day one,
which Texans wide receiver room the past 2 years.
Oh yeah, yes. When Nico Collins, I go on national TV and say he's my offensive player of the year through the first 6 weeks or whatever it was, and then he gets hurt literally that weekend. That was a lot of fun. But no, I no, but that you're giving yourself contingencies, which helps the coaches as well. Like I just mentioned, I think Higgins could be a power slot, which means just a big slot guy. So say Kirk gets hurt, Noel gets hurt, and okay, shoot, we still got ways to get to these formations if we
insert motion, man, him through the middle, and a good physical blocking, all that stuff.
Or say Nico gets hurt for 2 games. Okay,
yeah, now you got an X.
An X. I know Hutchinson's still on the roster too, but it's like, you still have another.
Which, by the way, I don't know if the national media's caught on, but like all throughout camp, like Hutch was ahead of Higgins, and he's been balling too. So I mean, I don't know if that'll change.
Yeah,
but I feel like a lot of people outside of the Texans world don't realize that
the war of the Cyclones.
Yeah, we got a bunch of them. So real quick, I mean, defense, obviously. Just give me thoughts on the defense, and then what you think the Texans can do this year. Ceiling, I guess, would be the answer.
This could be the best defense in the NFL. That's the ceiling. But I think a consensus top 5, which I think unanimous top 5, I should say, from everybody I know, and I look at it that way, could be the best pass rush in the NFL with one of the best back ends in the NFL. As far as they can legit, not a lot of teams can do this. They can go on 3rd down, line up in man coverage, and say beat us, and not a lot of teams can do that. Broncos, maybe one of the other teams. Eagles, they can't do that now. Don't know who their corner 2 is. So there's not a lot of teams that can line up and do that on top of having a pass rush. So they can just go, we can create one-on-ones up front and create one-on-ones on the back end. And I did this exercise. I go, who in the division can beat them? Like in just those ways. If you just look at it in that theory way, who can line up and block them and who can line up and have enough guys to win one-on-one? Because I can put
a quarterback to throw that too.
Exactly. And actually legitimately drop back and pass. So I could put Stingley on Brian Thomas Jr. and I got a couple other corners. I can go on Travis Hunter. So just looking at the team by team. All right, we go to the Titans. All right, we got Calvin Ridley. Okay, we got a rookie at receiver too. Okay, fine. Okay, moving on. Go to the Colts. They got interesting guys. They even have a tight end. Okay, but we got 500 safety slot guys on this roster that can guard tight ends as well. So it's just that they have, and it's just not overcomplicating things. This is what every coach would do if they could do it. The Texans can legit do it. But having said all that, Azeez Al-Shaair is basically the Tobey Maguire in Spider-Man 2 with the train, and he's holding the pass rush and the DBs, and he's the guy in the middle. Because if he gets hurt, I'm a little scared, a little scared because he's just very important. But that's the thing, because he's so important to this defense. Like having all this talent, he's actually like the MVP.
Communication.
Yes, because
I saw your video on this and I reposted it, by the way.
Yeah, and again, there's noise with the stats and everything, but it's one of those where and they played tough offenses during that time when he was out. But it matches eye test when
I
he
think
was
it
out.
also somewhat coincided with Jalen Petrie being out too. But I mean, I don't disagree. I mean, and that's what something D'Amico values a lot. People always want to play the most athletic, most high upside guy, but like if you can't get lined up to begin with, offense, defense, I mean, you're doomed. I mean, we've seen it, so.
And he can rush the passer. Like that's he's part of that. He was part of the 5 sometimes as the pass rush. He creates those looks and guard a running back legitimately. D'Amico has some of what they ran with the 49ers, had those quarter shells. And when you come in those defenses on base downs, and you're saying, okay, we just have our 4 and we're going to beat up with the 4 and we're going to keep our linebackers free. The linebackers have to make plays and they have to be efficient with the tackling, and the safeties have to be good tacklers because they all have to come up and tackle. And the thing is, that's why this, in the weirdest way, with all this talent, that the linebackers become super important. Like that's the true keystone position where other defenses might not have that. When you were
the 4-2-5, right? Like only 2 linebackers, and the D line plays attack style, and the linebackers are meant to clean up the mess, right? So if they miss that tackle,
attack. But the onus comes down to the linebackers to clean it up, as opposed to maybe other defenses where the defense is holding the point, and then everybody kind of shuffles in and makes it muddy and everything. And some linebackers, some D tackle, some edge. But yeah, this is just, and because they play in that kind of shell time after time after time, it's predictable for the offense, which means the defense, the same kind of plays keep happening where the offense is like, well, they're in this quarter shell, we got to do this. All right, well then, okay, so-and-so has to make a tackle again. You have to be consistent.
I was also told by Steven Nelson, former player, and he was off the team, was joining podcasts. He told us the way they play cover 4. I still don't know if I believe it. Sorry, I know you got to go, but real quick. But he was saying they were taught where the safety is taught to stay flat-footed, eyes in the backfield. And a lot of these plays where you see Stingley looks like he's getting beat and undercutting for interception is by design, where he basically trails and it looks like the safety is getting burnt. I don't know how much truth there is to, but I thought that was interesting. But it's also if that's the case, you just run 2 verticals up the middle and the seam's wide open.
Well, again, it puts they have to be 2-way safeties. They have to play the run, play the pass. It's basically you're just flipping the classic what the linebacker had to do, play run, play pass. Now the safeties are kind of looking that way. No, that's how they play. They're really tight. Traditionally safeties are 12, 14. They're playing at 10 sometimes.
With eyes in the backfield too, on top of that, right?
Backfield. Yes. Yeah. And they have to be good tacklers too.
But that's probably because of the 4-2-5, because now if those linebackers miss that tackle, you got to get up there soon or it's a long run.
It's a touchdown. Yeah.
I'm learning from you.
Well, and the irony of it all is that it's quarters, it's safe, is that you need better corner play because it's just, it's man to man, basically. They're not getting a ton of safety help. Well, guess what? You have Derek Stingley Jr. and maybe the best young corner pairing in the NFL. So it's that helps when you have that talent. There's just a lot of talent on this defense. It's it's kind of cool to keep picking at it. One weakness they had last year was they gave up explosive runs. So, but I'm looking at all the other numbers that I looking at the eye test, looking at the personnel, and I'm like, yeah, but I don't know. It feels like a pretty easy bet that they're going to be pretty kick-ass this year.
And so how far can they go?
They can win a playoff game. I think that's kind of their cap. It's just until I see what this run game looks like and what the protection looks like, it's hard for me to bet on because that's what will defeat them. The AFC top is so strong. It's really hard to make this next step. They are one of the best playoff teams and one of the ones, again, that I think I can set my clock to, the Texans. But it's making that next step to being a true contender, which is easier than the NFC than the AFC. And that's what's hard is you got the Ravens, who I think are loaded. The Chiefs are better than I think people realize. I think what people defending 3-time AFC champions. We've gone to they're better than people realize. And then the Bills offense is going to be very good. They still have Josh Allen. I think the defense is weaker than people realize.
Palmer too, sneaky signing.
I like Joshua Palmer a lot. Yeah,
I'm saying sneaky signing.
Yeah, he actually fit. Yeah, he fits their offense really well. But That's really hard to bust in. And you got the Broncos lurking. I don't think they're a true contender either. But the problem with the Texans and what I've realized with playoff football is it's the classic coaching adages.
My
Nice.
light just fell. Sorry.
I've always done this. I was gonna say I thought it ran out of battery.
We'll keep going.
But you have to run the ball, you have to stop the run, and you have to get explosive plays. And the one thing that I just don't know with the Texans is how consistently they can run the ball, and that's been their weakness the last 2 years. So that's if they after 6 weeks are top, they have to be above 40%. They have 40% success rate. If they're above that after 6 weeks, then I'm talking about them differently. Rushing success rate. But then it's right now, I just have to see it. Like I'm encouraged that they're going to be better, but it's still not just like an overwhelming influx of talent, which, it's more just going to be more fine than absolutely catastrophic season ending. So if you can't tell, like I'm optimistic, but to a point, I think until I see it.
Well, I'm probably an eternal optimist, and I probably shouldn't be as a Houston fan in general, but that sounds more than fair. I mean, basically, besides, I didn't mean like the Astros, obviously, but I guess every city has gone through a lot. There's been a lot of things we've seen, but no, I mean, I think that's probably the most rational, mainstream thought. Like basically they're at the same level, maybe slightly better, but the goal is to make it to the next round AFC Championship game, which I think we can do. But I mean, I get it. Like if we can't run the ball, if the O-line isn't better, then they won't. I mean, like you said earlier, like, it hinges on them. If they can be, I've said if they can be an average unit, we are a legit contender. And I am very high on the O-line. That can be a separate conversation. We could talk about that for hours, but I'm very bullish on them. But man, I really appreciate the time. I'm sorry we went long. I know it's fun talking ball, but before we sign off, we'll say goodbye here and we'll say our goodbyes after when we sign off. But if you don't mind real quick to the people in the chat, if you just mind telling them, obviously your X handle and all the work you do again.
Yeah, find me at Nate_Tice. Anywhere on social media. That's basically it. But yeah, Football 301 is the main show I do at Yahoo, and I've been writing a bunch of stuff at Yahoo too. Did some stuff on 25 trends of the last 25 years. Charles McDonald and I did that, but we have our preview shows coming out. Week 1 preview coming out, Football 301. So make sure to check that out on Yahoo. But you'll see plenty of film clips as well coming out. Also did a big board for next year's draft class that came out this weekend, and I'm hopefully going to get some sleep this weekend before the games start. There's been a lot of writing on Labor Day weekend.
That's awesome. Kudos to you, man. I've kind of learned in that world. I've been writing myself. I wrote for Sporting News, and now I have my own site, so I know what it's like, and I know it takes a lot of work. So kudos to you for that. But appreciate you guys tuning in.